This week we are working on Unit 2, Week 2. This week's selection is The Devil and Tom Walker by Washington Irving. Before you begin reading the selection, I would like to give you a little bit of background on the author as well as the selection itself. Washington Irving is the author of The Devil and Tom Walker. He was named after George Washington, as you should know, is considered the founding father of the United States. Washington Irving was the first American fiction writer to achieve an international reputation. This means that he became one of the first to be recognized as an American writer internationally. Prior to this time, we really didn't have very many truly American writers, as you should recall from your last week's reading of the historical background. Irving was born into a wealthy New York family right at the end of the American Revolution. He originally intended to be a lawyer, but became an author because of his love and travel and writing. Based upon those things, he figured he could make a decent living as a writer. Irving's career. From 1807 to 1808, he wrote satirical essays under the pen name Jonathan Oldstyle. Many people truly enjoyed reading these, but it wasn't something that he could make a decent living at. After that, he published the magazine called Salmagundi, along with his brother. In 1809, he published his first book, which was titled A History of New York from the Beginning of the War to the End of the Dutch Dynasty. This book was a humorous examination of New York in colonial times, and it was popular among many people and led to New Yorkers being called Knickerbockers after the main character. However, even though this book was successful, it did cause some problems for Irving. It made many of the leading families in New York, the aristocrats per se, upset because it poked fun at their heritage and their ancestors, which he too was one of. So in that way, he was even poking fun at his own family. Americanizing the Europe folklore. From 1815 to 1832, Irving traveled throughout Europe, exploring small towns and cities and getting to know what their folklore was. And he used that folklore to inspire his own writing. Two of his most known works, The Legend of Sleepy Hollow and Rip Van Winkle, are actually Americanized German folk tales. So he simply heard the folk tales and then retold them within an American setting with some American spins on them. Now we're going to take a look specifically at the story that you're going to be reading this week, The Devil and Tom Walker. It is based on a German folktale, just like many of his other stories were. It is set in colonial Massachusetts, and it's a humorous tale of a man's pact with the devil. Because of the fact that it's a pact with the devil, this short story has been considered controversial in some areas. In the story, Walker, the main character, enters into a deal with the devil to obtain wealth. However, as he ages, he begins to regret his decision, and he fears for his mortal soul, and tries to come up with a way to trick the devil and get out of his pact. What was interesting about this story is that even though Irving chose to set it in colonial times, it really reveals the materialism of the mid-1800s, which was the time period in which he was actually living and writing. This information should help you as you are reading the story and as you think about the implications of what he is writing. But what I would like you to do now is to answer the questions on the following slide in the submission box for this assignment. First, what pen name did Irving once use? Second, what was the name of the magazine Irving published along with his brother? Third, what inspired much of Irving's writing? And fourth, what does The Devil and Tom Walker reveal about the mid-1800s?